future digital age of referrals is coming to someone's pocket near them, reaching in, pulling out their phone and pulling up their Claude app or the ChatGPT app. In today's world of just tons of competition, one of the best ways to differentiate yourself is to show who you are. The more that you can lean into that and truly showcase the personality of the firm, the better.
You are listening to Sharp Strategies, Sweet Success.
Hello and welcome. You're listening to Sharp Strategies, Sweet Success. I'm your host, Tiffany Swedensky, and today we're talking with Tanner Jones of ConsultWebs. So happy to have Tanner here on the podcast. Him and I have met, I think, at several different events and definitely on social media. It's a kind of a small world in legal marketing. And I'll let him go ahead and finish out his introduction.
Well, thank you first and foremost, Tiffany. Enjoyed the chance to jump on this when you extended the invitation. So grateful for that. Have a ton of respect for you and the work you're doing, and just very intuitively aware of just the power of your skill set, somebody coming in and being able to help drive a law firm in the right direction. So we need more of you in this industry. As you mentioned, I'm Tanner Jones. I just started my 18th year in this industry earlier this month. So that's just crazy to me. We've definitely observed a lot of change in the digital landscape over the last couple of decades, lived through COVID in the digital world. There have been a lot of pretty significant challenges, but also just with challenges, like anything else, come tremendous opportunity. So that's my background. ConsultWebs helps law firms exclusively with their digital marketing efforts. So search marketing, AI visibility, digital advertising, social media, video, and everything in between.
The devil on my shoulder is like, if I'm just going to ask one question I know every audience member wants to hear is, how do you rank an AI search? But I'm sure you're just like the rest of us that are kind of piecing together the answer. So my first question is actually going to be, over that almost 20-year career, what would you say were the top three have been like the biggest challenges that you've seen in this industry?
It's a good question. I would say one of the biggest challenges is shiny object syndrome. And I say that somewhat tongue-in-cheek, but there are a lot of law firms out there that hear pitches on a weekly basis on how something or someone will transform their business, transform their intake, transform their lead generation, their case signups, whatever it may be. And so I think that's probably way more general than just digital. But at the end of the day, business owners have a sea of decisions to make. And it's easy to chase after short-term vision, short-term dream, as opposed to being able to look through as long of a long-term lens as you can possibly do. And that's difficult for law firms in many situations, especially if there's some level of desperation to get cases in the door. So Tiffany, I'd say that's probably one of the biggest things I've seen repeated time and time again over the years is just chasing after the next quick thing that seems great. Nobody else is doing it. Maybe it's early. But I would encourage law firms on the counter of that to, again, make longer term decisions, ask questions that result in how is my reputation going to be impacted from this? And that's what I would lead to the second piece is not enough law firms embracing the opportunity to leverage their own personal brand and authority. That's a challenge for a lot of law firms. I think a lot of attorneys are they may be bullish in the courtroom, strong personalities, but the thought of having to sit in front of a camera and shoot video and record content is such a drain to a lot of personalities. And so that challenge or that limitation has prevented a lot of attorneys from truly showcasing their authenticity. In today's world of just tons of competition, one of the best ways to differentiate yourself is to show who you are. How do you sound? That's a big thing on people make decisions based on emotion, and then they back it up with logic. And the more that you can lean into that and truly showcase the personality of the firm, the better. A third challenge, hopefully you don't give me a long list of this may be grueling for both of us, but third challenge over the last couple of decades, I may borrow from the second piece on the reputation, but there's a lot that goes into reputation. Today, it matters a lot for AI visibility, as you've already referenced that. And so reviews are powerful, not neglecting that, but also reviews well beyond Google, getting social proof across the board, not just your website and Google, but on some of these legal directories and business profiles and anywhere else that you can represent your profile that allows endorsements. Don't allow that to be your limitation or your challenge as a business owner. from being able to get exposure in a competitive environment like legal.
And well, okay, hold on. I kind of blanked out on myself, but I was thinking about the review piece really recently because if you think back to when I was a kid in the 90s, how do you know which restaurants were the best in town? Because we didn't really have Google reviews back then. The only thing I could land on is word of mouth. You just talk to somebody. It's like, do you like Pizza Hut or Domino's? Like, well, Pizza Hut is really on fire, the last few weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And marketing was different back then because you could say something about yourself and it be true. But now you have reviews and testimonials being so visible that it doesn't matter really what you say about yourself when you don't have enough reviews or you have really, really bad ones, which more often it's just the not enough case for the attorneys I'm working with. I don't know if I know you guys do SEO and I'm fishing for advice, but how do you coach attorneys on how to get more reviews? What are you telling them in that space?
Probably similar to you, Tiffany. I've seen the full spectrum of some firms just have it, and they're able to get tremendous velocity on reviews, positive reviews, and sustain that on an ongoing basis, while others seemingly are asking and struggling. I find that it comes down, one, to accountability. Who actually owns this process? A lot of law firm owners do not have time to oversee this and have very little desire to oversee this effort. So they should ideally find someone within the firm who is hungry and recognizes the value to the business. Maybe there's a way that they can aim toward their own personal goals within the firm, and you pat them on the back for those accordingly. But that's where it starts fundamentally. Accountability. I know you know this from a fractional CMO perspective, that accountability is everything, because you can have so much going on, but at the end of the day, who's actually owning this specific key point indicator or whatever that metric is? The next piece, I found some really creative solutions that I've heard across the board. I'll speak to one in particular. It's very simple, very elementary, but very effective. But before I get to that, there's software available that should be being used by your firm at minimum. And I would not say that that is the best ideal, but it is a minimum, because if no one's asking for it, you're certainly not going to get proactive reviews. That type of software allows you to be able to text message as long as you've received appropriate consent from those clients. And then you can also email, and it can be on a drip system until they've actually taken the time to leave the public review. So that's as simple as being able to get that contact in the system, hit submit, and let the system do its thing. At minimum, every firm should do that. The next piece would be the manual effort. I'll preface this by saying Google has strict guidelines on the review process. And so it's important that if you're going to implement a process to proactively grow reviews, read through Google's review policy to explicitly read it from them and not from me. But I've seen lawyers be very successful at being able to, when they are dispersing checks with clients, bringing them in to the law firm, sitting down with them and being able to pat them on the back, thank them for being a client, tell them that you've got the check available. In the meantime, here's a swag room. Feel welcome to enjoy whatever you'd like from the office. And if you'd like, with the iPad kiosk, please take time to leave a review. And you walk out and you leave them and you give them time. And the concept of reciprocity is a powerful thing. And so even just leaning on other creative angles of reciprocity, of being able to treat a client well and encourage the benefit of a review and what it does for your business, you'll find success if, again, you have the right accountability within your office who is hungry to grow that. The last thing I'll mention on reviews is velocity. I'll say consistency matters more than just getting a big bulk of reviews. And that's where you also see a lot of law firms somewhat challenge themselves or challenge the future of their Google business profile by maybe getting 30 reviews all at once through some kind of local event they do or whatever it may be, and then they don't see a single review for 5 months. Google is tracking that velocity consistently to determine, are you open and active and helping people? And so that is an important element. The velocity matters way more than the total number of reviews.
I need to bring it back to kind of what you do in ConsultWebs and my original teaser question, which is like AI visibility. And well, I have a bunch of questions in this space personally, but one, how the heck are we supposed to track AI visibility? I look in Ahrefs and they have those AI overviews and that number, but you and I have been in the business for a long time. That's just kind of looks exactly the feature snippet information we used to get in the day. What should we be looking at? How does a law firm know if they're ranking well in AI and for ChatGPT and these AI tools?
Sure. This is a very important topic for law firms who are hungry to increase their visibility. Today, it's the concept of SEO as we've once known it. Search engine optimization is arguably search everywhere optimization today. That includes large language models like ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, Gemini. The list goes on and on. But the tracking is complex, and Google ranking tracking has been complex historically. I'll spend just a moment there, and then we can get into LLM visibility like Claude and ChatGPT tracking. But with Google, when you actually look at the amount of traffic that you're getting, historically, we had a lot more access to user data than we do today. Google's continued to strip away what the marketer can see through Google Analytics and Google Search Console. But even still, the data suggests that there is a wide range of search queries being used for people to find you. It's not just a singular, these particular 5 search terms that are driving the bulk of traffic. In many instances, if you're getting thousands of visitors a month, you could be seeing 1,000 different variations of search queries that are landing people on your site. And I bring that up because it just illustrates the complexity. Historically, if you're only tracking 50 search terms, the most commonly used search terms in your area, like car accident lawyer near me, car accident lawyer, personal injury lawyer, etc., you're still only getting a picture of your search visibility. It should be seen as an indicator, as a way to illustrate trajectory and performance over time, but it should always come back to your North Star metric of total leads coming in the door, total cases being signed. That is truly the best way from month to month to consistently evaluate performance of your overall marketing and overall trajectory. So moving over to the large language model ranking tracking, ConsultWebs, as well as some other groups out there, we've built a specific platform to track your AI rankings. We actually have a free tool online. If you just Google search ConsultWebs AI visibility tracker, you'll be able to find it. And you can enter, it'll give you a few prompts. So it'll read your website, determine where your relevance lies, your geo, where you're located, as well as your practice area. And it'll propose a number of prompts. You can adjust those prompts as you wish. There are 5 specific prompts. And it'll show you where you're showing up in Claude, Perplexity, ChatGPT, and Gemini. It'll show you across all of those different prompts, again, alongside who your top competitors are that are showing up. And so that alone is tremendous insight into knowing your gaps. And as a marketer, knowing where your gaps lies first and foremost to develop strategy around it. So that being said, you can use tools like that, Tiffany, to be able to assess the gaps, but there's also a lot of ongoing optimization and assessment, just like we've done with search engine optimization campaigns for years, where you do competitive gaps. If you're doing a prompt in Claude and you're looking for who are the top personal injury litigation law firms in Las Vegas, for example, Claude, ChatGPT, these platforms are going to deliver several options, and you'll be able to see where those are being cited. Are they actually citing the law firm's website, or are they pulling from a Justia profile or an Avo profile? And what we're doing is reverse engineering. Why are those particular websites, those law firms being recommended? And it's because of these trusted entities that are citing them. Our objective is to then go in and be able to build out a robust profile set if it is the profiles that are in fact being cited. So it is part of being able to look at visibility and rankings, and then ultimately building strategy around the gap.
You mentioned gap analysis. One of the questions I was going to ask you is what content should law firms be writing for their site? What should they be making in-house? What should they be looking for in their SEO company's content? What are we looking at that matters today?
Let me get in the weeds with you a bit. Google came out with a framework of EAT. I'm sure you've heard that ad nauseum over the years, but the acronym EAT, experience, authority, trust, they later added in expertise. So it's EEAT now. Experience, expertise, authority, and trust. And if you're looking through the lens of the EAT acronym for your website in particular, what have you included on your law firm site that illustrates your experience, your expertise, authority, and trustworthiness? A number of things here. Let's just work through a list. When it comes to experience, think about the obvious things, your verdicts, settlements, anything obviously that's not confidential that you can list publicly, ideally is represented on the website to tell that story. If you can include the amounts, the settlement amounts, that's great. List those in the dollar figure and the case type itself, like 2.4 million trucking settlement, trucking verdict. And if it's anonymized, list anonymized. But what it does is it tells a story of prior experience. You can also get into total number of trials, depending on how you're positioning your law firm. If you're a litigation firm and you want to showcase your trial experience, showcase the number of trials your lawyers have handled, and then combine that as the total law firm amount. All of these metrics begin to illustrate and tell a story of your experience. For firms that really want to get involved, those are easy to hand off and allow a marketer to run with. But for attorneys who want to really take it to the next level, spend time building out case stories, real legitimate case stories. The details of the case, obviously not including anything you shouldn't include based on confidentiality, but show that you've actually worked the matter. What insurance defense strategies were implemented that you overcame in that case? What challenges maybe with the client did you have? And that ultimately tells how you've overcome challenges and really speaks to your specific practice area case type experience, which in turn is getting read and picked up through large language models. Certainly, real photos of your attorneys, your staff, showcase who you are. We talked about authenticity earlier. That's a critical thing. And so make sure that your firm, your website is welcoming and introducing those individuals that have the experience. Anything else beyond that, from a content perspective, the more localized the content is, the better. And so like being able to build in specific courts, maybe even judges, any various county quirks that may be in place that you've encountered within your specific practice area. Those types of elements, AI is not able to replicate. And when it comes to competition who may be using AI to produce content, these are the small differentiators that add up that help to distance you in the AI race of gaining visibility. I can't not stress enough the power of video, especially short form video, especially covering commonly asked questions that your clients are asking on that initial intake and throughout the life of the case. Developing short form video content around that is a tremendous marketing tool for you, and it helps to convert, but it also helps to feed the search engines and AI as you being the expert. I'll stop there and ask before I keep moving, because I think there are several other practical ways, but I'm just curious, any of that resonate with you or any questions on that concept of experience?
I get it. And I 100% aligned with you. I was just wondering to myself, it's why do I feel this advice falls flat? Because when we're talking about how do we make unique content that AI can't replicate, that's going to enhance our EEAT, I'll tell a law firm, write case results, write about the community marketing that you're doing. It seems to me, and maybe I'm just reading into this, that people are really disappointed with that advice and they're looking for something else.
They want that
I don't know,
shiny
do you get the
object,
same vibe?
right? If they don't have these elements within their website, then they're costing themselves business, frankly. It may feel like table stakes and everyone should and already be doing it. In certain instances, Tiffany, to your point, I see a lot of forward running law firms that have a lot of these built into their website already. And to that end, as they should, they've covered their basis there. That would be my encouragement to someone who still may be holding back on taking the time to do this, because without it, if you're not telling your story, no one else is.
And also, I think there's some element of writing truly unique pieces for a law firm is difficult. It truly is. Whereas it's pretty easy to write like an FAQ on any topic, particularly today with ChatGPT, that used to be hard. Now it's very, very easy. And so it's just something I struggle with, because you do need somebody who's kind of in the firm and understands the firm, their core values, understands what they're doing, and can communicate effectively about it. So there's a lot of writing that marketing has to do. Maybe I have an axe to grind. It seems like that's also some advice that falls flat. It's like, hire a writer. It's like,
You're right. It's not as takes effort. It takes intentionality like anything else. And many attorneys, we encounter it every single day. There's only so much time in the day. And when we talk about doing video content or joining podcasts and showcasing subject matter expertise, those are all worthwhile things, but you ultimately have to weigh it against the next priority. And I would tell you that these things are actively moving the needle on AI visibility. And so that's why for us, working with clients, we can expect, I would say less than 2% of our clients are actually running with this type of stuff independently. We have to go extract it and pull it out. But that still requires the firm, just as you said, for that culture piece and the true DNA and identity of the law firm to be represented in that copy. They have to have some level of involvement in review and speaking into it.
there's a lot of stuff in marketing that doesn't seem like it would move the needle, but absolutely does. Case results are a good example of that. Posting on LinkedIn is a good example of that. It doesn't seem important in the moment, but over time, these kind of activities build up to results. So it comes down to systems. Going back to video, honestly, maybe this is therapy for me because it's kind of like, you're like, yeah, you do have to extract content from the law firms. That makes it so hard to generate these marketing pieces that are about the stuff that only the attorneys are working on or only the case assistants are working on. And it's unfortunate it's that way. It's unfortunate that there are so many lawyers I talk to who want to do more marketing and want to do better marketing and sometimes want to do it themselves. And when I say, okay, can you do a write up on your most recent case result? Here's what it looks like. Here's what it needs. It's just like nothing. So it's so frustrating. I don't know if I have a question there, but it's just part of the deal.
I read a stat recently that I may be off base on this, but I think it was suggesting less than 33% of attorneys have actually taken time to produce video content. That seems actually a high number to me across the board. But to me, that presents, as a marketer, unbelievable opportunity for the firms who are willing to do it and not just test it out, but to the point of anything that's worth enduring. Like, word of mouth relationships are built. They're earned. They're not just immediately won. They're earned. And it's the same thing with most other marketing initiatives that relate back to your brand and who you are. If you're not willing to sustain it for a period of time, you're never going to get the most out of it anyways. And so pick your priorities and be intentional that you can continue it, whether it is LinkedIn, like you're referring to, which we love. It's a great platform being picked up, or whether it's video. If it's not everything, again, be intentional.
There's so much in marketing that you have to commit to. I mean, my podcast, I don't usually talk this much on my own show, but for the first 3 months was just absolute trash. Like, I hate it when those clips show up in my stories and memories. But now today at this podcast, and I'm bragging a bit, I'll have guests tell me, I got somebody heard about me on your podcast and they're a new client or something to that effect. And it's like, wow, this show has gotten traction. Wish it'd make more money for me. But we're doing something here. I have listeners, and that's nice. I would not have known that. I wouldn't be here on the show. You wouldn't be here on the show if I gave up on it when it was still garbage and we were figuring it out.
That's right. You have to, and most quit, just like the statistic of the average business. I mean, most are failing in the first 5 years. Why? Because they're not willing, for the most part, to endure the suck and embracing that period, that season. And so kudos to you. I would say kudos to all the listeners who are willing to keep enduring. It's worth it.
It's really you guys who bring this on. I usually get that hooky. Well, and I'm trying to think of, because I have so many questions when it comes to SEO, because so much is different. I guess for you, specifically to SEO, what's something that law firms are still doing that they need to quit or that they're trying to do that they need to give up on? And what's something that's like they've never thought about? I mean, we talked about a lot of things, but if you need to reiterate, that's fine. But what's something they're doing they shouldn't be? What's something they should be doing but aren't?
I think content is one of those constantly evolving strategies, especially when it comes to, so again, we've been doing this for quite some time. We've seen a lot of changes in Google's algorithm. Google, when they decide they want to make an algorithm update, they don't come and ask ConsultWebs, can we do this? They're rolling these algorithm updates, and in many instances, they're massive, they're wide, sweeping, and it's like in some instances, you may get caught up in some of those and have to reverse engineer what caused the drop. In a lot of instances, content has been the big driver in terms of what's caused such volatility for law firms. Partly because there are some firms still continuing to invest in just AI slop and just pushing a bunch of pages on their site with no real architecture strategy with the content and no real intentionality about uniquely developing the content like we've talked about. In which case, they're going to get themselves in algorithmic trouble, because when you start doing that and you're essentially, sorry for my language, vomiting content all over the website, what we're finding is that you begin to run into page overlaps, topical overlaps with content. And it forces Google to have to determine which page is most relevant for which search query. And in many instances, Google will get it wrong if they're having a ton of pages to consider when it comes to commercial truck accidents. So if you have 75 pages on your site that reference commercial truck accidents, Which page do you truly want ranking for that big query? That's a big common issue with firms that are just thinking they need to hit a quota on content, as opposed to being much more intentional about going back and revamping existing pages that may have not been touched in 5 or 6 years. And if you have main practice area pages that haven't been touched in 5 or 6 years, hit the pause button on your blogging schedule for a period of time and divert those resources and expertise into your bread and butter content that actually produces business for you. So that's definitely one area. I think blogging is one of those. It's an easy way for certain agencies to illustrate effort and value. And in many instances, it's not actually moving the needle in any respect. It's just showing that the client is receiving something on a weekly or monthly basis. So that's what I would tell you to caution your just blogging to be blogging or just writing content to be writing content. The next question was something they should be doing more of. Is that correct? Yeah. I'm going to borrow back to the video piece. It's something anybody can do. You and I are sitting here on very inexpensive production equipment. I mean, let's be real. Anybody can do this. Good lighting, audio matters more than the actual, look of the video. But if you get that right and you're willing to spend time talking about what you do, what you know, your subject matter expertise, and really being intentional about speaking directly to your prospective client, that is something that will pay off if you're willing to sustain it. And I would tell you that if you're doing video on a monthly basis, give it at least a year. Don't give up after 6 months. Give it at least a year, because just like word of mouth, it takes time to really grow and produce fruit. And you don't want to leave before you've been able to realize the full effect of that effort.
And I think the honest truth is, like, a lot of this stuff is boring, and people have the perception that marketing should feel exciting. And I can speak to a lot of the day-to-day work is really just like any other work, kind of a drag. And so, you'll get bored of making videos very quickly. And there's a lot of insecurity there too. The thing that I don't feel like people fully understand about marketing is that if what you make is bad, nobody's going to see it. Your hair not being right or something like that. I don't know. I don't know what people are actually scared of. But I hate to lean on a cliche, but all PR is good PR. And that's doubly true with social media comments. So I try to coach that out of attorneys and have been varying levels of successful. Although I do appreciate the attorney who's just like, yeah, put me in front of the camera. I don't even need to reply. It's awesome.
Those are rare, but they are great. And honestly, I would say that certain personalities who are not that, they use that as an excuse and say, well, they're just built for that. They're made for that. That's not me. But I would say I was not made for video either. It's repetition. It's getting comfortable with it and being willing to do it. And anyone can do that. To the point, though, on this type of strategy is not for mass media attention, meaning if you're doing such a hyper-focused topical video around obscure topic of distracted driving, whatever it may be, and you record a piece of content, maybe speaking to a specific client, a case type you've dealt with, and it's a 1 minute long video. Now it's put on YouTube. It's being read, number 2 search engine in the world, being picked up by large language models. That one potential client 6 months later, 2 years later, whenever, who is in that large language model like ChatGPT doing a nuanced search related to distracted driving, when they come across that video, even if that's the first view on that video, the ability to reach that nuanced client in that moment is unparalleled. And so again, that's not mass media. You don't need 50,000 views on that video. You need the right view or the right views. That creates, it's less daunting when you think about it from that perspective. And every video you produce is another line in the water that sits as an evergreen asset.
Again, I can speak to that. And I wish I wasn't talking about myself so much. But yeah, I have so much content. And all I do is interview good people like you, and talk about marketing and discuss this stuff. And it's just basically, it could be an endless stream of content if I utilized it better. But sometimes my clients get more of me than I give my own business. And I don't know. There's so much to say there. It is such a struggle. I guess we're running up on time though, so I got to start closing up my questions. We talked about this at first. I sometimes ask this, sometimes don't. But what's a topic that you wanted to talk about today that we didn't get to?
We've covered some great topics. I would end with, I actually saw you at the PILMA conference earlier this year, and the presentation I gave was the end of law firm referrals as we know them. And yes, that's a dramatic title, I recognize. But law firms have built their practices on referrals. And we've touched on that early in this conversation, but I want to stress the fact that that is evolving. The times, they are changing. And referrals will continue to be important, no doubt. that just what has built your business will continue to feed your business, but the concept, the transaction of the referral, the process of the referral is evolving in a digital landscape. And so ultimately, that's what I would implore any of your listeners to recognize. If they have seen word of mouth and referrals do well for their business and it's produced 50-60% of their business over the years, yes, I would hope that that continues. Future digital age of referrals is coming to someone's pocket near them, reaching in, pulling out their phone and pulling up their Claude app or the ChatGPT app, and they're doing detailed prompts, asking questions, the same questions they would have asked their cousin or their family member, and they're getting immediate direct options. As business owners, we have to recognize that change and do everything we can to stay ahead of that so that we can maintain visibility. And naturally, that's the end goal for any marketing, is just to increase as much visibility as you can possibly do for your brand.
I don't want to keep you if you don't have enough time, but I do have like one other question because you brought it to my mind. But I'm talking to a lot of clients about this idea that people search for attorneys. They don't necessarily search for law firms. That's varying degrees of true, but lawyer and attorney are the search terms that we most often see. And I think that us marketers have had this mindset, we're marketing the firm. And now with AI and updating all these legal directories, which has become key strategy in AI visibility for a lot of people, are we really marketing the firm? Or are we marketing the attorney? What should we be focusing on here?
It's a fascinating discussion because to some degree it's evolving in and of itself. Historically or traditionally, marketing the brand, the law firm brand, has been the King Kong effort. And that's tied to your Google business profile. Obviously, your website is representing your brand. And then you have your individual attorneys within the website. Well, today in the world of more directories being revalued, directories have kind of had some comings and goings with their popularity over the years. Today, they're very important. They're very popular. And there's opportunity to not only have brand profiles, but you can also have attorney profiles. And attorney profiles matter a lot in that respect. And so I would say it's of equal importance today. The individual attorney should absolutely be out there illustrating their subject matter expertise. And you can do that on your website. If you are editing and approving certain pages, practice area pages on your site, make note of that within the page, edited and reviewed by, and then linking over to the individual attorney's bio. Being able to tie the authorship is a very valuable effort from being able to illustrate subject matter expertise to your individual attorneys. In some instances, I've seen attorneys create their own Google business profiles and go get reviews for their own personal representation. And I love that. It's more exposure. It's more lines in the water. They're not getting crossed over because they are separate entities. There's a law firm and then there's the individual attorney. And so anyway, the attorney can further establish their legitimate credentials, they should be pushing that on their website and through third-party directories. I will end with the website is almost always going to be tied with the brand, the main law firm brand. And so to that degree, that should be the hub for the law firm. You don't want to spread yourself to where if you have attorneys asking, should we create our own individual websites and things like that, I would not go to that extent unless you have significant budget to be able to support that many assets running. So I do want to clarify that point. But the main website definitely is going to be the powerhouse brand entity as well as the ability to showcase the individual attorneys.
There's a whole business probably in making microsites just for the attorney. I'm sure it's on the horizon. Thank you so much for being on the show and talking with me today. Where would you like people to look you up and learn more about you?
You can check me out on LinkedIn, Tanner Jones at ConsultWebs, or simply go to our website, ConsultWebs.com. And Tiffany, thank you again. Grateful for the opportunity.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you on the show. I love talking with people about marketing. I mean, I hope so, you know. Thanks everyone for listening, and we will see everyone next time.